Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today and joining us for today's topic, the growing demand for hybrid convergence and hybrid IT, brought to you by Zunesis. I'd like to introduce our presenters, Steve Schaefer, President and CEO, Zunesis, and Ed Graham, Regional Channel Sales Manager, HPE. So let's get started. Steve, tell us more about Zunesis and its product and service offerings.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome everyone to this session today. And I thought I would take just a few minutes and talk about and introduce Zunesis, the products and solutions we offer, and our partnership with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So our success over the past 13 years is a direct result of three important values. First, the DNA of Zunesis is about making the lives of our customers better. We believe in serving our customers and earning their trust day in and day out. Secondly, we believe in finishing what we start. Zunesis is a company that can be counted on to deliver IT projects on time and within budget. In fact, our slogan is, "We finish." Finally, I am very proud and grateful for the group of employees that calls Zunesis home. We have a team of like-minded, high-integrity, and talented people who believe in working together to help our customers succeed. Now, in terms of the products and solutions that we offer, we believe in focus and only taking on projects that fit squarely within our core competencies. We are experts when it comes to designing and implementing secure, reliable, and cost-effective IT infrastructures. So, for example, if a client wants to refresh their data center, including things like networking, server storage, hyperconvergence, security, and automation, this is where Zunesis lives. This is where we thrive. And of course, helping our customers maximize the use of cloud technology is part of every IT discussion we take on these days. When it comes to cloud, Zunesis has chosen Microsoft Azure as the cloud platform that we are experts in. Our strong technical expertise with Microsoft infrastructure applications and Office 365 make Microsoft's cloud focus a natural for Zunesis. Finally, we have the technical expertise to provide assessments, design services, implementation, and training for our solutions. We like to roll up our sleeves, stand side by side with our customers to implement the solutions we sell. And then finally, our partnership with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. We've been a platinum partner with HPE for more than 13 years. Being at the highest partnership level with HPE requires Zunesis to deliver a lot of revenue, maintain an excessive amount of technical and sales certifications, and have broad command of the many products and solutions offered by HPE. Zunesis is an HPE Service One partner, which means we are authorized to implement all of HPE's solutions. Zunesis has some of the most well-known and highly regarded HPE solution architects in the Western US. These are really sharp technical folks. We cherish our partnership with HPE, and we have never been more excited about the solutions lineup that HPE has to offer right now, including what we'll be talking about today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ed Graham from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And why don't you go ahead and take it away, Ed?
Steve, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for including us as part of your program and enabling us to introduce the HPE SimpliVity 380 Hyperconvergence solution to your prospects and customers. So what I'd like to do is just start it off in context of Steve mentioned being very well positioned in the marketplace. And our strategic focus is really around three areas as a company. One is we fundamentally believe, as does Zunesis, that the world will be hybrid. So our objective there is how do we make that simple for our customers to consume and figure out what belongs on-prem and what belongs off-prem, and with the services that Steve alluded to. The other thing is we really believe in this whole digital transformation, the power of the intelligent edge with technologies like Aruba and others. And then together with Zunesis, we have the full complement of services to make both of these worlds to really simplify the environment. So today we're talking about hybrid IT and hyperconvergence and where it fits. So essentially, Hewlett-Packard Enterprises has three investment vectors in this hybrid IT space that we're focusing on. Yes, we have our traditional infrastructure. We'll talk about that in a moment with our blades and our rack mount servers. But the real focus as we see the future is hyperconvergence, and that's all around the SimpliVity data virtualization platform. We look at an emerging technology, composable infrastructure, and this is analogous to hyperconvergence, but also does things like containers natively or bare metal. And the third big area of investment is all around the management of that. So we have two platforms that we have there for the management. OneView, which is really for on-premises management of private cloud environments, and something that we recently introduced, which is OneSphere, which really looks at this hybrid model and enables customers to deploy, manage, and operationalize their hybrid clouds and really understand what is going on. So when we look at the hybrid IT, we fundamentally believe it. Those are the areas we're going to invest in. And what I'm going to share with you today is really all around the hyperconverged marketplace. I mean, the hyperconverged solution that we've got to offer. So what's really kind of driving that in the marketplace is this digital transformation, data center modernization. We're just seeing the explosiveness of data. We're seeing the explosiveness of new applications, and how do we keep up? And a lot of enterprises had a difficult time keeping up with that, so they looked at going out to AWS, among other cloud providers, Azure, which is a big partner of Zunesis. And there's been a tremendous amount of growth there, and we've all heard about that in the industry. And then private clouds are growing tremendously. But what's interesting with all this is the growth of hyperconvergence in the marketplace in general. And this 48% is hyperconvergence in general. But SimpliVity, since the acquisition of, since HPE acquired SimpliVity, is growing at nearly 4 times the rate of the marketplace. And I think that's a testament to the acceptance of Hewlett-Packard, and with the partnerships with companies like Zunesis that really bring this to market. So the growth in this marketplace is tremendous. And I think that what we're seeing is that is that the acceptance of it is really because hyperconvergence is an enabling technology, and it enables our customers to deploy at cloud speed. So with just a couple clicks of their environment, they can deploy or clone VMs and really focusing on the agility that is the promise of the cloud. With that is, of course, the flexibility, so you can bring down VMs very quickly, and really it's about operating at cloud efficiency. When I talk to a lot of clients and they're talking about going to the cloud, I ask them why, and they say because of cost, and it's really about a perceived cost. So I ask them, what if we could give you all of that capability, that business functionality, that business value in an on-prem in a much more secure manner? Would you be interested in it? And the answer is yes. And in fact, we have a white paper that talks apples to apples comparison of managing the life cycle of virtual machine against AWS. And depending on the service level agreement that you have with AWS, we're anywhere from 22 to 49% less expensive. So this is one of the areas why I think hyperconvergence and HPE SimpliVity in specifically is really growing and becoming a viable option for companies to deploy their private clouds. Why is this doing this? So what I'd like to do is, I think a lot of times when people think about hyperconvergence, they think about VDI, they think about small, medium businesses. And yes, hyperconvergence is a tremendous use case for those. But I'd like to dispel some myths and say it's also available for large enterprises in addition to SMB and commercial type clients. And I'd like to give an example. One of our largest clients, and probably the largest client deploying hyperconverged infrastructure in their environment, is a Fortune 50 financial services firm. So a little background on this firm: they had grown, like many companies, through acquisition. And when they acquired companies, they acquired a whole bunch of disparate technologies, whether it's disks or servers or backups and all that kind of good stuff. And you can almost imagine what the cost and complexity of trying to manage that environment. So as they looked at embarking on their data center transformation projects, they're like, let's look at hyperconvergence. And they did. And they looked at pretty much every vendor out there in the marketplace. And thankfully, they opted for HPE SimpliVity. So to give you an idea of where they were and where they went to and the benefits they received, is they operate like most global companies in 3 theaters in North America, in EMEA, and in the Asia Pacific region. They had 6 data centers, 2 data centers in each of those theaters. They did that largely for high availability because they were worried about the latency across the long distances between these operating environments. So they would have 2 data centers at each of the theaters. When they finally got fully deployed with the SimpliVity environment, they actually went from 6 data centers to 3 data centers. So 1 in each of the theaters, because what they did, and we'll talk a little bit later in this presentation about the capabilities that SimpliVity uniquely brings to the marketplace, is they could have each of these data centers back each other up. So a tremendous reduction in the number of racks. They went from 34 racks to 3.5 racks in their data center. A 10x reduction in space and power and cooling. Their words, not ours. They projected a $100 million savings over a 5-year period. But one of the things that really got them, this has got kind of cloud-like environment, is they could seamlessly move virtual machines across any of the data centers at any point in time. So they are a 7x24 follow the sun development environment, and as shifts end, they can move the virtual machines seamlessly and efficiently from one data center and environment to wherever they were operating on. And this is pretty unique, and I'll show you later in the presentation. And this is across about 125 different applications they're running, all the way from Oracle and Citrix and SQL environments, as well as VDI, dev, test. So they're really running mission critical applications in their enterprise. So just kind of do a little level setting. I like to do an analogy with something that we all know and dear. So if you look at the left-hand side, these are disparate independent devices that we've all used in the consumer world, whether they're GPSs or a cell phone or a calculator, a camera, and all these type of things. But in 2007, Apple came out with a platform, right? The iPhone. And now they took these disparate hardware devices and they did it in a software-defined environment that now they've got on an application on the platform. And I like to look at that as an analogy and a comparing to running a virtual environment. So as the name SimpliVity implies, we simplify virtual IT environments. So if you look at this picture on the left, this is the infrastructure that is required to run applications in a virtual environment. So you need servers, you need storage switching fabrics, you need shared storage of some dimension, you need backup appliances, you may need WAM optimization technologies that are going to replicate technologies. You might need replication software to have the VCR-like backup. You need some kind of data mover in a backup environment. And these are usually from disparate technology vendors, all of whom have different management interfaces and tools. So this is the proverbial thing that Deloitte likes to talk about, that 80% of IT budgets are consumed just keeping the lights on, right? So, you know, the challenge there, obviously, it's expensive to acquire, but it's more probably expensive to maintain. So you're increasing the amount of CapEx and OpEx, because generally with this, you need to over provision. I already talked about the complicated about to manage, and it's really not very responsive, because if you make an impact to one of these components, it can have an impact to the other, right? So it's not a very agile environment, you know, quickly. So what SimpliVity does, just like that analogy I have on the cell phone, it takes all of this infrastructure below the hypervisor and it consolidates it in a software-defined manner into a SimpliVity appliance. So this is what we call the OmniStack data virtualization platform. What we do is we simplify the acquisition and maintenance and operations of all that infrastructure costs below the hypervisor. So today we support VMware. In a couple of months, we'll support Hyper-V. And then we free up the IT organizations to focus on what's really important to the business, which is the application sitting on top of the virtual infrastructure. So that's essentially what SimpliVity does. And we do this in a building block, right? So now you don't need to over provision. Buy what you need up front and build as your organization continues to expand, or your requirements continue to expand to different type of nodes. So, you know, when you compare and contrast in the marketplace, all hyperconvergence is not created equal. There are many hyperconvergence vendors on there, and they've all done a really nice job. But if you compare and contrast us versus every other vendor in the marketplace, is you can see two examples here. They still require additional software, additional hardware to really provide the rich data services that enterprises require for mission critical applications, as opposed to having all that functionality, all that capability natively built in an appliance in the HPE SimpliVity 380. So summarizing just up front here, we take all of those kind of important services that are requisite, we consolidate that into the appliance, which again, benefit-wise, looks at lowering the upfront costs, right? Because I don't have to over provision. We typically see a 10-to-1 reduction in devices, which really translates into an improved TCO. So it's very common for us to get a 69-73% TCO reduction over what we'll call here the legacy infrastructure we built out over the last 20-30 years, you know, to provide those data services. So let's take a closer look at what the SimpliVity data virtualization platform is. So as this slide highlights, it's a modern data architecture. What VMware did to servers, we're doing to storage, right? So we're virtualizing the storage. And we kind of have that in three big pillars. One is all about data efficiency. The other one is we natively build in resiliency backup and a DR plan. And we do this in a very easily management platform that our customers are already accustomed to, and we're merely a plug-in to VM-centric, and I'll show you about that in a moment. So let's go into a little bit more detail on this. And this is the secret sauce of the SimpliVity in the marketplace, is we talk about a guaranteed data efficiency. We do this because we have an always-on compression and deduplication at inception globally. So when we talk about that Fortune 50 company that I put out there, they have deduped all of their data across the globe. And that is what enables them to efficiently move VMs from, say, the US over to Hong Kong in their environment, because they're only moving unique pieces of data from the US over to Hong Kong. So you're not having to have these huge pipes to move data. I've seen examples where I'll move a 500 gigabyte VM, and after I do the move, I may have only moved 30, 40, 50 megabytes of data for that 500 because I've globally deduped. So this is the secret sauce, always on deduplication and compression at inception. And so what we do here is we actually offload this capability to an accelerated card that is natively built into the SimpliVity appliance. And more than 50% of our customers have seen a performance benefit of just moving on to a SimpliVity environment without doing any other optimization of their application, because they're offloading all those compute intensive data services to the OmniStack accelerator card. So we talk about software defined with hardware acceleration. And with our deduplication, what we're only doing is writing unique bits of data to our flash drives. And we're doing what we essentially do is eliminate immense amounts of I/O. So the fastest I/O is an I/O that you never have to write. And with this data efficiency, we guarantee in our EULA a 90% capacity savings across primary and backup storage. And I'll show you how we do that in a moment. So again, uniqueness is we have built-in backup and disaster recover native in the box. So we do not do snapshots or replication. It is a full logical backup with near zero overhead. How do we do that? Through our deduplication. So if we've already written it, all we're doing is doing a thumbprint in the metadata and pointing to the data, right? So that's how we get a near zero logical backup. We have very granular RTOs and RPOs. These are policy-based that you set up. So you could have, at the data store level, you could have bronze, or you could have gold, or you have platinum at the VMware level, depending on your RTO and RPO requirements. And you can set that policy for both local, in the local data center, as well as remote. So you want to have a 3-2-1 kind of environment for high availability and disaster recovery. So that's how we have that simple, affordable DR. We're, again, just moving, when we do the backup to a secondary site, we're only moving the unique data bits over there. That's how it's very effective and very efficient. Let me give you an example. One of our large customers is in the oil and gas recovery business, and they have a lot of compute infrastructure out on oil rigs. And they have a requirement to be able to back up their infrastructure from their oil rigs onto the land. And they've been looking at all kinds of technologies and were unsuccessful. The only technology they truly had success with was a Sikorsky helicopter flying out there once a week and moving the tapes, until they found SimpliVity. And now they are able to, because of this data efficiency, they are now able to back up as often as they want from the oil rigs onto the landline. And another important part about our architecture is we not only have RAID protection at the disk drives, but we also have resiliency in the event of a system fails, right? So we will always write to a minimum of 2 systems, so that if one system goes down, it's already written. So we have both RAIN and RAID in our architecture. And we also have an add-on product called RapidDR. RapidDR, if you're familiar with SRM from VMware, is an automation tool that again automates a great deal of the VMs moving from one site to another. So it actually would take down the VM, crash the VM. It would bring it up on the other side, bring up the new IP addresses, and get off and running. So it's just a further automation tool that it's available. And I talked about the last pillar, and this is really about, we're all about VMware centricity. It's all about managing the life cycle and the cost of a VM within a data center. So we are nothing more than a plugin into vCenter. And it's the same operations that VM admins are accustomed to doing. We just add here, you can see some unique operations that are SimpliVity, things like backup or clone. We can clone a virtual machine in the matter of seconds. We can move virtual machines from one environment to another in the matter of seconds. This is where you would set up your backup policies. This is where you would edit your policies. This is where you could see your performance. This is where you could demonstrate, how much we're storing. So even if you look at in this picture in VMware Center, we've got 687 terabytes of VMs, backups, both local and remote, that we're really only writing 7.7 terabytes to the storage. So that's where we get a lot of these great efficiencies across primary and secondary storage. It's talked about the simplicity of the interface, but no longer does an admin need to set up for LUNs or shares or volumes. It's just at the data store. So it really empowers IT special and VR admins to be a complete complete management of their entire environment. And early on, I talked about we operate underneath the virtual machine, right? So under VMware. So if you have any automation tools like vCenter or vRealize, nothing's going to change. You continue to use them for your automation of your VMs and management. We just take care of all the data services beneath there. So really, what can VMware help you in your environment, right? So we talked about reduce IT costs and streamline the entire operation. Because we're automating a lot of that capability, you don't need to focus on that as an admin. It really focuses on the TCO, right? So anywhere from 69 to 73% TCO savings compared to that traditional infrastructure. And this was validated by Forrester Consulting. You can see where if you're eliminating disparate devices, you're reducing the amount of devices in the environment, which has space, heating, cooling environments. And I also talked about the life cycle cost of managing the VMware. So you get this, you can potentially, demonstrate cost savings over things like AWS, comparing private and public clouds. It's really about improving that agility. We talked about the cloud agility and the time to production. Because it's an appliance, all those stuff are built in. You don't need to build it. You don't need to test against one another. You have one management interface. It really reduces your overall OpEx and allows you to shift that 80% of keeping the lights on to how do I focus on new applications to help drive the business, for the end users. We can scale thousands of VMs in the matter of minutes and with predictable performance. Again, because we're software defined, hardware accelerated, we have a very predictable performance on there because we offload those things. And we talk about maximum uptime. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. How do we maximize our uptime, not have data loss? How do we provide a simple disaster recovery environment, right? So we have operational backups, we have disaster recovery, and we really reduce the amount of recovery time from days or hours or to minutes. And we have a guarantee that we can restore a 1 terabyte, yes, a 1 terabyte VM in less than 60 seconds. So think about if you get attacked by a ransomware, you can go back to your best known backup and you can restore your VMs in seconds and minutes. So this is a real good threat against things like ransomware and cybersecurity. So, one of the things is we've been getting very positive ratings from independent research. So Gartner has moved HPE in general to a overall positive rating across many different platforms, but including in the overall hyper-converged infrastructure, as we are in the far right corner of visionaries, as well as some other products. So we're seeing, the industry analysts really promote HPE as a leading strategic vendor in this hybrid IT space, and SimpliVity being an important part of that. So how are our customers using it? They're using it in digital transformation. They're using it in data center consolidation, just like that Fortune 50 type of company. And one that probably should be on here is data center migration, which a lot of people are doing all the other times. Because of that deduplication capability is when you're migrating from one data center to the other, once I move Windows 10 over once, I never have to move it over again. So I'm only moving those unique bits. So it really helps accelerate time to production and data center migrations. A lot of our customers are using it in their remote office and branch offices where they don't have the skilled capability. They want the same rich data services they have in their data center, but they don't want to deploy people in here. So because of that global management framework, I can put SimpliVity out in the remote offices. I can manage it locally and back it up and provide the high availability requirements for those. VDI, private cloud computing, our tier 1 applications, right? Oracle, SQL. Again, talking about that, more than 50% of our customers have received performance improvements by just putting it on the SimpliVity appliance, again, because of that hardware acceleration, we get that predictable performance for the applications, which at the end of the day, what it's all about. And again, for businesses that want data protection, disaster recovery, it's very easy to implement through our vCenter plugin and environment and test stuff. So think about if I'm running a production environment, I've got a bug. I can just clone that VM. I'm not impacting the performance of the production, but now I could give my developers a real look at the production environment under real data without having an impact. So these are just some ways that our customers are using it. Again, I think I talked about the data protection, probably ransomware. We had a customer in the Boston area that was a bank, and they got hit by ransomware, and they couldn't dispense nor accept money. Kind of bad thing for a credit union. So when they discovered that it was ransomware that was causing the problem, they just went back to the last known good backup that they had, and they were up and running within 15 minutes. So again, another really good use case is the security environment. A lot of people ask, what's your focus? Where's your customers? What kind? The answer is we're in all kinds of customers, because anywhere VMware is, we can operate in that environment, right? So we've got, tremendous success across a multitude of industries, and we're pretty proud of that. Give you an example of how customers are using us. NBCUniversal was a VCE customer. And when they were looking at doing a technology refresh, they looked at Hyperconverged, and they ended up choosing SimpliVity in this. And again, you can see the reduction in the footprint, right, from 7 racks to just 10U. So that's significant, which delivered the 90% rack space cooling power savings. They also, because of the deduplication, the hardware acceleration, and the modern platform being on flash, they got a much faster improvement. I love this guy's quote, we now have Ferrari instead of a bicycle. So I think, anybody looking at doing a technology refresh in their environments, this is something worthy to evaluate. We talked earlier about AWS, right? Managing the cost of the VMs. In this case, it was over 500 VMs. Depending on the level of service level agreement, we're anywhere from 22 to 49%. Less expensive than an AWS offering. So kind of quick update is we have recently introduced the Gen 10 technology from Intel. With this, we've been able to offer multiple different configurations from extra small all the way to large. We are an all flash environment, so that's better performance and optimization. More memory, faster performance. We have data encryption at rest, and also kind of new in the Gen 10 environment for those that are running VDI and have graphic intensive applications. We now have the ability to put NVIDIA GPUs right into the SimpliVity appliance. We have always had the capability, and still have the capability, to have compute nodes sit in front of the SimpliVity data storage to run VDI environments. So I talked about where HPE was investing from how do we help make hybrid IT simple. One of them with our investments in the SimpliVity that really focus on, shifting from managing the infrastructure to shifting resources to focus on application development and support of the business. We have predictable performance, top security with our Gen 10 platform and data not leaving the enterprise. Very, very efficient, right? 90% savings across storage and backup, which results in a TCO savings of roughly 70%. And what's pretty impressive in the backup world is how can we back up a 1 terabyte VM in less than 60 seconds. And then as you're looking at, most people will have a multi-cloud strategy, private and public. With our OneSphere investment and announcement, how can we manage across that entire environment, give you visibility of your virtual infrastructure across multiple different kinds of platforms, whether they be on-prem or off-prem. So kind of in summary, we talked about the powerhouse of the Hyperconverged platform, and uniquely the HPE SimpliVity 380 provides 7 important data services from the inline dedupe and compression, always on globally. We have the hardware accelerator card that gives more predictable performance to the applications. We have the integrated backup and DR that helps not only with your operational environments, but also your disaster recovery. It's a very highly available infrastructure because we're always going to write to at least 2 pairs. We can just add on. So buy what you need up front, and you could add additional nodes into your cluster to get increased performance, increased capacity. And we talked about the efficiency because of the way we do the global deduplication, that you have the ability to easily move VMs and replicate them or move them from one site to another. And then finally, we have the global unified management in the vCenter as a plugin. So there's really no relearning, retooling for your existing VMware infrastructures. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and Zunesis for including us as part of the go-to-market strategy.
All right, well, we've come to the end of our webinar. So thanks to Zunesis and HPE for creating this content. And also thanks to all of you for tuning in. We hope to see you soon for another Zunesis webinar.
Did we get that one?